Good evening. My name is Chris Paxton, and I am the Director of Administrative Services for the City of Siloam Springs. This is the City of Siloam Springs Unified Development Code Town Hall meeting for Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. I currently have 5:30 p.m. This meeting was supposed to be presided over by Vice Mayor David Allen. However, he was not able to attend. I will be the presiding official. To start with, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And I will start with a little bit of a discussion on some of the rules of order. First, please keep all comments addressing specific details about the Unified Development Code. All questions need to be directed through the presiding official, that's myself. Comments about the city policy and procedures are not a part of the Unified Development Code considerations. Any member of the public that would like to speak will be given an opportunity by coming to the podium during the appropriate time and providing their name and address. The first round of public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per comment. After no further discussions from the audience or from the first round of discussions, staff will respond to any of the questions from that first round of comments, and then we'll reopen the floor to a second round of comments for anyone that would like to speak again. And during that time, there will not be a time limit. Moving forward, attacks to the character or intentions of staff or others will not be tolerated. The town hall meeting is being held to get public feedback regarding the proposed changes to allow the citizens an opportunity to propose changes to the Unified Development Code. Failure to follow decorum or to be professional and courteous will result in expiration of the speaker's times, regardless of the time limits or lack thereof. Please note that just because an item is discussed, this does not mean that it will automatically be a part of the adopted codes. Staff will take all considerations, discuss impact and legality, and determine if it can be a part of the Unified Development Code amendments. Staff will not entertain any recommendation which would violate state or federal law. The meeting will have a set time to adjourn at 6:30 p.m., which will only be extended if the first round of comments has not been completed. The second round of comments is only as additional time remains, and upon all discussions ending, the meeting may adjourn early. We're going to move on to the agenda. The next item is introductions of staff.
Hello, my name is Ben Rhodes. I'm the city senior planner.
And I'm Megan Thomas. I'm the current planner.
And again, I'm Chris Paxton. I'm the Director of Administrative Services. Administrative Services also includes the Community Development Division. Next up on the agenda, we have a Unified Development Code presentation. This is going to have two speakers, Ben Rhodes and Megan Thomas. We are going to go ahead and have Ben start the presentation, and at the end of that, we will move forward to the public comments. If you can hold your comments and questions to the end of the presentation.
All right, thank you, Chris. So we're all here today to discuss the Unified Development Code, but what exactly is a Unified Development Code? But before I get into that, I did want to thank everyone for taking the time to visit with us today and learn about this important legislation that we're considering. So a Unified Development Code, a short answer, is a collection of various codes within the city's code book or code of ordinances, as it's referred to. That is a consolidation of a single into a single chapter. So essentially kind of a reorganization to help streamline these codes and put them into one place, such as a one-stop shop to get all your information. So why do a UDC? This provides codes in the one place, as I mentioned, and it allows for a more streamlined approach to development reviews as things go. The end objective is to improve the presentation of the rules and increase ease of use to our code users. And furthermore, we want to take this opportunity to update these city codes, to modernize them, and to better serve the community's development needs into the future. The prime driver of this is looking critically at the requirements and focusing on the end results. Our philosophy has been taking the customer's experience and balancing the governance with the practicality to eliminate needless red tape that serves no valid purpose. On the right side of the screen there, you'll see the title copy taken from the code. This is a page of chapter 35 as proposed. And the code breaks this out into different subtopics for each title. and we will cover that later on in the presentation. So the idea behind the UDC largely comes out of the 2022 Adopted Comprehensive Plan, which is the city's long-range master plan going up to the year 2040. This is available online on the city's website, and you can review the whole document there online. So on the left side, you'll see a page taken from the plan document that summarizes the goals. For example, you'll see the first goal, LU-1, addresses the strategies for future development. Upon review of the plan, there are 15 different goals that were identified within the 0 to 5 year range that would be addressed through the adoption of the Unified Development Code. You'll see the goals listed there in the bullets on the right. I'm not going to list all those out for you, but you can see they range from various sections of the plan that are required for code updates at various levels of modernization to meet the visioning set forth in the plan. Staff is also aware of a recent act that has approved accessory dwelling units, and nothing in the proposed Unified Development Code as amended will conflict with that act. Megan?
Thank you. So this slide will show an overview of the Unified Development, the UDC approval process, with our current status marked by that blue arrow on June 24th. We have received numerous comments, all of which have been carefully reviewed and addressed. These comments will help shape future updates and later versions of the code. Version 3.2 of the UDC and a guide to the changes are now available on our website. After the February meeting, we sent out a questionnaire to stakeholders and to local builders and developers to gather their feedback and concerns. We did receive 13 responses from that questionnaire. On March 14th, we paused work on the Unified Development Code pending the approval of state legislation. Work did resume in April once the legislative session had concluded. We held a stakeholder roundtable on June 9th and are scheduling one-on-one meetings as needed. Today's meeting provides another opportunity for the public to review the UDC and track where we are in the approval process for it. We estimate the final reading of the UDC ordinance will occur in early October following review by the Planning Commission and the board. This slide shows the updated schedule, which is available on our website as previously stated. The items highlighted in red indicate the type of outreach event, such as public open houses or roundtable meetings. Some of you guys have attended those. The items in green represent the different document versions, which we will discuss later in this presentation.
And we do have extra copies of the schedule on the podium if you guys want to take one. So I mentioned earlier that I'd like to cover more of the code structure, explaining the purpose of adding the titles to the code. This is a unique to our code organization in Siloam Springs. Previously, titles were used in the 1990s, but were done away with when the code was recodified in around 2001. The reason we are proposing to add these back is to better subdivide the chapter into smaller sections. It's a very large chapter, as you can imagine, unlike any of the other chapters in the code book, so you really do need to have titles within the chapter to divide each section. On the right side, you see the redacted copy of the code table listing out all the chapters. In our current code book, and everything shown crossed out are proposed to be completely repealed and then replaced by adding in chapter 35. So when this is all done, essentially we will have fewer chapters in the code book, but one big chapter that has many different titles in it. At the bottom, you'll see why how it works out with the progression of sections. So you have the chapter, that's chapter 35. Then you have the titles, one of the 9 titles. Then you have articles, sections, and then subsections. Here we are proposing 3 unique but related documents that cover what is in the Unified Development Code. On the left, there will be the final copy, which is what we call as a clean copy. which will look like what it will look like in the final form. And of course, these are all posted on the city's webpage. If you do want to look under today's meeting, I believe there's a pop-up there on the links for all this. In the middle, you have what's called the redaction. And so the redaction is just a fancy way of saying it's the entire code, but we are crossing out anything that's being deleted, and then you add in anything that's proposed with an underline. And then because this is such a large endeavor, we've never done anything like this since I've been at City Siloam Springs, that's for sure. But we are providing a third document, which is basically an explanation guide. That is not going to be in the code. It's just to explain the reasoning and rationale behind each of the changes. So that you would have a guide, if you will, if you wanted to zero in on a particular section or something.
Right. This slide shows the different versions of the document. So version 1.0 was the initial draft that organized the code into one document, including past sign code edits. Version 2.0 underwent thorough staff review with weekly meetings focusing on each section of the code. Version 3.0 was presented to the public, and after initial feedback, updates were made and posted as version 3.1. Version 3.2 includes required legislative changes from Little Rock. We are currently working on version 3.3, incorporating recent stakeholder comments from our stakeholders meeting that we had on June 9th and our one-on-one meetings that we have currently. After completing stakeholder and board one-on-one meetings, we will present the updated document as version 4.0. If the Planning Commission suggests further changes, these will be included in version 5.0, the final ordinance version. Stakeholder comments were open until June 2nd. Comments for the board and Planning Commission will remain open until July 25th with the possibility for further edits during approval.
Thank you.
Now, well, this is my slide.
It's yours.
It's my slide. Yeah. Now we'll shift to focus to the details of the code itself. Each slide will cover one of the 9 titles I mentioned earlier. Title 1 covers general provisions that apply across all titles, including comprehensive definition section. Think of it as the code dictionary. We organize definitions by topic, so related terms stay grouped together. Landscaping terms won't be mixed with sign-related ones, for example. Many new definitions were added. Some important ones were also included. And then some of those definitions are the accessory dwelling units, site distance, triangle graphic, neighborhood character and neighborhood context, new sign types added, non-motorized vehicles, Charleston-styled houses, and townhouses.
For Title II, it addresses what's called planning, which is primarily referring to the Planning Commission, not necessarily the Planning Administration Division of the city. Changes include removing some outdated legislative references, updating when the annual report comes in. Currently, that comes in July. We want to change that to coming in January, so it would be consistent with the calendar year rather than the fiscal year. And just some other minor updates that were just modernization of that section. Let's see. For Title III, this encompasses much of the administrative procedures for permits. This also includes the recent updates to the percentage change that allows plans to be amended from 10 to 15%, which was updated, I believe, as a separate ordinance. One thing I'd like to highlight is the requirement that preliminary plats with 50 more lots or multifamily with 50 more units may conduct a separate neighborhood meeting, although we are discussing that internally based off of some recent meetings we've had with our stakeholders, and so that might have a little bit of a different form, in the final version. So just stay tuned on that. The reasoning for the neighborhood meetings was just to allow for residents to have a dialogue with developers on specific changes that might be coming into their neighborhoods before they actually end up going to the Planning Commission. We looked at clarifying special use permits that so they can run with the land and not expire unless there's a specific condition that says that they should expire. We've had run into some issues with that recently on another project. We addressed sign postings to accommodate when applications come in, to be a little bit more conducive for the applicant to be able to order some of the notice signs. The bigger notice signs, like the one you see in the picture there, that's not created by the city. The applicant actually has to order those from a sign company, a fabricator, and they need a lead time to be able to get those installed. So we're trying to allow a little bit more flexibility in the code so that those can be put up in a timely manner. Finally, we added a new right-of-way vacation permit process, so it's clear to everyone what process is needed to vacate a right-of-way or easement in Siloam Springs.
All right. So this is Title IV. Title IV covers landscaping standards. Now, landscaping standards must follow the green space requirements of the zoning code. We found some conflicting pieces in that landscaping code, so we've addressed that so that if the zoning code is stricter, then it will fall underneath that. We've added an exemption for new hangars at the airport since heavy landscaping there could block clear sight lines. We introduced more flexibility for sites with unique challenges or hardships. We added a requirement that if 7 or more significant trees are removed, there is a fee required to allow for tree planting somewhere else in the city. This is to help preserve the city's urban forest and tree canopy. We clarified that if RDOT denies tree plantings in their right-of-way, those trees should be planted in the planting strip instead. And lastly, we updated the maintenance bond to cover 25% of installation costs and made sure trees won't block street lights, helping keep our streets safe and well lit. And then Title V covers the sign code, and we completely overhauled it over several years. The main goal was to update the code so it follows federal laws and recent Supreme Court rulings. Specifically, we removed any rules that regulated signs based on what their messages say, because that's considered a restriction of free speech. Instead, the code now focuses on regulating things like size, shape, location, design, and color of signs, not their content or message. While doing this, we also modernized the code to reflect current business sign practices. We added a new section to help interpret the code, included clear tables and graphics, and clarified rules about content-based restrictions. Changes included organizing general sign rules by zoning district, defining standards for historic districts, and setting clear spacing rules for new billboards. Importantly, we didn't change size limits for signs like wall signs. We just made the rules easier to understand and better organize, especially for unique types of signs.
So moving into the Title VI, the subdivision of land, we looked at the subdivision procedures, splitting land essentially. We wanted to add a requirement that developers add space for future city parks if their developments have a certain threshold of number of lots. We looked at measurements of blocks to better clarify that administration. Updated the preliminary and final plat review process to be consistent with other places in the code. We streamlined the plat submittal process, updated performance bond requirements, addressed easement dedications on lots, where they can go, what their widths are, that type of thing. And we removed street design standards that were formerly in the section so that they are housed in their own place. So previously we had some street designs in subdivision regs and some street design in the master street plan. Now they're just all in one title. And on that note, we are going to go to that title. That's Title VII. And here you do see the street design standards I just mentioned is in the graphics there. These were developed in-house by the former city engineer and provides for sidewalks and side paths for new streets, providing a variety of options based on available land and right-of-way, as well as a budget for the project. Most of this section is taking the current master street plan and codifying it. This entailed removing parts that were more aspirational or just informational sections of the master street plan, and kind of boiled them down to the actual hard regulations that need to be followed. And then we include the map itself, as which you see on the far right, that will be the future master street plan. So when referring to that, it will be referring to just the map, not street designs or regulations or anything like that. Yep.
I did just want to interrupt right there just for a moment. The master street plan, as we know, it has been said it will be the street classification plan that's on the right-hand side of the screen. We didn't make any changes or updates to those classifications with the Unified Development Code. That will be a future project. So that's not something that's part of the Unified Development Code update. The only role that plays in our update proposal is that we're dividing the text portion from the map portion, so there's less confusion on what we're discussing when we're talking the master street plan itself.
And that includes what I have on Title 7. Thank you, Chris.
All right. This title updates zoning rules, specifically Chapter 102 from the current code. We added new provisions for accessory dwelling units, that's ADUs, to make sure they comply with the latest state regulations. We simplified the rules for pharmacies by grouping them under a single use category for easier regulation. We added a new R5 zone, which allows for townhomes because we realized townhomes and multifamily apartments are different, but we previously treated them the same. This new zone will help create more predictable townhome-focused developments. We completely revamped the planned development PD zone, which has been a big focus recently. The old PD zone is now a legacy zone. Properties already approved under this can stay as they are, but no new properties can be rezoned as PD legacy. This keeps rules in place for existing developments like setback requirements. We introduced a new UPD, Urban Plan Development Zone. This lets developers choose from existing zoning districts and make specific changes, but they must follow the guidelines for things like mixed land use. This aims to streamline reviews and support diverse, high-quality housing projects. We also updated standards for bike rack parking at businesses, required better connections between parking lots of neighboring businesses, and improved dumpster design standards.
And this is the last title, Title 9. So this one addresses just the legal matters, being all the issues of whether there's something's lawful or lawful or not, what we call legally non-conforming or conforming to our codes. It also has the sections for penalties. And of course, we've updated this section to match the code numbering system. So it's all the same throughout Chapter 35. And with that, we're available for any of your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben. So that concludes the Unified Development Code presentation, if there's no additional final staff comments. Okay, so we will move on to the next portion of our meeting, and that is public comments and questions. Just as a reminder, for the rules of order, we will begin by having a first round of comments, and just to ensure that everyone has a chance to speak, we will have a 3-minute limitation on the first round speaking. After everyone has had a chance to speak, if there's still time remaining on the clock, we will address any comments that they've had with staff, and then we will open up comments again at round 2 comments, so there will not be a time limit. We will go until the time expires. Okay. I will open up the microphone. I would ask you to please, if you would like to speak, come to the microphone at the podium, and please provide your name and address.
Rebecca Wyatt, 1109 East Jewel Street. I was wanting to know if you would clarify in Title 5 under signs, a new interpretation section ensures no restriction on free speech based on the U.S. Supreme Court ruling on sign content neutrality. Can you explain, does that mean people can put cuss words on a sign, or?
I can take that.
Ben, go ahead.
There's something called commercial speech, which does, I believe, prohibit profanity or things of that nature. but you can't, so for instance, you can't say, this is an election sign, so it has to be 5 feet wide, but this is a sign to talk about the church potluck. It can only be 3 feet wide. Do you see what the problem is with that? Because
Yes.
you're saying now election signs can be bigger, but based off of what they're saying, but the church potluck sign can only be smaller because of what it's saying. You can't do that. You have to keep them all the same. They're not regulating what the sign says to determine where it can go or that type of things. Now, there are a few exceptions. When there's the Supreme Court did refer to off-site signs, where you can say whether a sign is an off-site sign or on-site, and basically off-site or off-premises signs means there's a sign that refers to something that's off the premises of where the sign's located, like the McDonald's that's 3 miles down the road.
Yes.
You can regulate those slightly different, but that was a very narrow sliver of what the Supreme Court would allow, because they were trying to prevent regulations based off of the sign content. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. And I wanted to thank you again for the town hall meeting. It's nice to be able to have a chance to hear people and just talk. So thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. All right. Do we have another speaker?
Oh, we got one.
I'm starting to understand the problem with the hourglass. So,
I can wait. Laura Holt, 2003 North Carl Street. I'd like to thank the members who are present for all that they have done, and I also know members also not present have spent a good deal of time every week for a very long time covering this and listening to stakeholders, the board of directors, planning commissioners, and citizens, so thank you. I have only one question. If something in the new outline varies from something that somebody did recently, will they be able to adjust their current situation? For example, an accessory building in the back of a yard, will they be able to now move that into the newer rules?
I can answer that. So
Thank you.
there's a couple of things to consider whenever we're talking about what has happened versus what is allowed. So number one, if it's a new application, if someone wants to do something that was not previously allowed and will be allowed, then that would be a new application, new consideration. It would start
Okay.
just as a new project itself. If you have an existing project that's going through an approval or that has gone through the approval process, if that project has been submitted, then the ordinances that were in place at the time of submittal are the ordinances that follow that project through. So there are some considerations on whether or not they can do a resubmittal if there's some sort of a lighter approach to the ordinance that they wanted to take advantage of through the submittal process. However, once a project is submitted, after that submittal, we cannot enforce stricter requirements upon that developer. So if it is stricter, then they would follow the code as it was at the time of submittal. Additionally, if there is anything that changes that would, if you own a piece of property and your current development does not meet what the ordinance changes, then that falls back into what Ben was talking about as a legal non-conforming property. So a legal non-conforming property says, hey, we understand that your development looks just like this. If it was developed today, it would not look like that. It would not be allowed to look like that because that was done before that became law. It is legal and it is non-conforming. So we refer to those as legal non-conformances. A more common term for that, being grandfathered in, that is correct. So when we talk about legal non-conformances, we run into those every day. And some instances, it kind of goes in reverse. We may have something that was not conforming before, and occasionally we have code changes that bring that into conformance. So there's There's some pros and cons in both directions, but usually it always goes to benefit the developer if they already have a submitted site plan. So we can't create a law that would say, hey, we don't like what you've submitted. We're going to create a law before you approve it, or before we approve it, that's going to prevent you from doing it. That makes it where the laws that were in place whenever they had this submittal carry throughout the life of the development. Does that answer your questions?
Yes, very well. Thank you very much for your explanation. And again, kudos for all the work that has gone into this. As a citizen, I've cared very much about what has gone into this, and so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jim Caldwell, 609 South Oak Hill. Several things. I want to just thank the staff. We just, this afternoon, had about 2.5 hours with the staff and had some really positive changes to the code, and it was a real blessing for that. One of that was mentioned was the master street plan, and I would just encourage the staff, as it gets codified, that we prioritize that to get that cleaned up and updated, because that's been mentioned for many, many years that we're going to update the master street plan. It has a lot of designations that could be improved. The other thing I would suggest on the timeline, it looked like July 25th was the cutoff date for the board input. I think they're all having meetings next week, individually one-on-one meetings for input, and then those will be processed. And then, anyway, for version 4, I would really encourage the staff to consider pushing that out a little bit so that the general public and the stakeholders could look at version 4 in its final content before it goes to the planning board, because there's only about 2.5 weeks in there, and it's a gnarly project. There's a lot of details, and we've gone through a number of iterations with cutting out and crossing and this and that. It's even this afternoon I was having a hard time figuring out exactly where we're at and which number we agreed to. So I think it would really help the process. As you well said, we've spent years on this. So once we get to version 4, after the first director input, I'd really encourage the staff to consider 30 to 60 days where we can get that out, and then we can all look at it, step back and look at it and say, hey, this is what I meant or not, and even before it goes to P&Z, and then we could make those changes there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, do I have another speaker? Ron? All right. I will, seeing no additional speakers, I'll go ahead and invite any of the first round speakers if you wanted to have additional time or comments.
Rebecca White, 1109 East Jill Street. I was wanting also to second that idea of taking a little longer to make sure people had more time. I figured you guys would do that anyway, but thank you.
Thank you, and I can actually address that a little bit.
Thank you.
That'll go through the, I can speak with the city administrator about that. We have the previous city administrator set the current timeline schedule, but we had changed that multiple times. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to extend it too much, because we do need to eventually get this to the Planning Commission. We do still have quite a few additional public comment options. So we're going to have a joint workshop with the Planning Commission and the Board of Directors. So the joint workshop is going to be more of a formal joint workshop. It's not going to be the walk-around type that you had at the library. It'll be in this room, and it'll be with standard rules of order with the mayor presiding. It'll be on a Thursday.
It is on a Thursday, yeah.
So we'll be on a Thursday night. And at that point, I don't have the agenda ready for that, but my guess is that that'll be the first opportunity where there's potential for some additional feedback that'll go directly to the board and directly to the The Planning Commission, excuse me. After that, it'll go to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission has the ability to hear the item and move that forward to the board. They have the ability to table that and make changes. This is the Planning Commission's realm. This is the Unified Development Code. The Planning Commission and planning commissions in the state of Arkansas have a lot of authority whenever it comes to this type of consideration. However, the final authority goes to the Board of Directors. So the Planning Commission can make amendments. They will be able to have discussions with members of the public. They can make those amendments during the Planning Commission meeting whenever it's brought forward. They'll have they'll have those two different opportunities, the workshop and then the meeting. The idea of having the workshop first with the joint workshop is to ensure that the Planning Commission has the ability to see the document and have those discussions with staff, just the same as the board, before we present it in the formal setting, the more formal setting of the Planning Commission, where they're determining whether or not to move this forward to a vote. Once it makes it past the Planning Commission chair will have the option whether or not to take the public comment, and it'll go through the procedural rules of order for the Planning Commission. It'll also go through the procedural rules of order for the Board of Directors, but it'll be 3 meetings with the Board of Directors minimum, because this is an ordinance. It has to go across 3 separate meetings unless there is a motion to combine that, and I do not see that happening with this item. So during the board meeting, there's going to be a lot more conversations between board members, staff. We're going to try to have the majority of everything worked out, but we do expect that there will be some last minute changes based off of public input. But at each one of those meetings, I believe that the board does allow the citizens to speak at those too. So
When you get the final thing done, how long will the public get to look it over? 'Cause since it's, over 100-page document.
the version 4.0 will be the version that's taken to the Planning Commission.
That's
Do you have
correct.
that on the?
Yeah.
Can you go to the slide?
The versionings, I think, right? Yeah.
So, can you go to the other slide?
Which one?
The-
Oh,
I think it was Megan's slide, that one.
this one?
So if you look at this document, I think that there's one right up here. Can you grab me one of those, please? Because I'm 40 years old, I can't see anything on that screen. So,
There's also,
Thank
up here, they have
So
the
just-
schedule as well.
just so we see that, so we have, today is the town hall, June 24th. In early July, one of the speakers earlier spoke about the one-on-one conversations. Those one-on-one conversations, we have 14 hours worth of scheduled time with board members, meeting on 2-hour blocks all through the June 30th to July 3rd. We'll be meeting with 2 a day for 2 hours each. The joint board workshop is July 17th. That's with the Planning Commission. That's where it says provided updates from version 3.2.
Yeah, it will, so we're collecting updates now. 3.2 is already on the website. You can see that today. So the updates will be shown as 3.3. I think that might be an older version of the schedule you have there right in front of you. But yeah, there's the one on the website does have the correct versionings on there. So
And on the schedule, final comments are due to planning from all sources to prepare version 4.0 for Planning Commission. That is due on July the 31st. The packet for the Planning Commission will be required to have the version 4.0 in it. Is that correct?
that's correct.
And
yeah.
that will be available for the public to see. Is it a week before the Planning Commission?
We get it out the Thursday prior to Planning Commission, but again, when we have a new version that we can present, when they're in draft form and we're working on it, we can't just upload them every day. But when we have a new version that we can present, it will be available on the website before we post the Planning Commission packet. But the official version, that's the ordinance, will be the one that's in the packet itself. So that's the Thursday prior to Planning Commission.
And if there are no changes to the planning commission, at the planning commission of version 4.0, then that will ex facto become version 5.0, which is the final draft for the board. The board it says October the 7th, 2025. Is that the first reading?
And that's the final reading.
So that will be the final reading. So between August the 12th and October the 7th, there will be 2 additional readings of this at the board meetings. On the future update of this, I would like us to go ahead and add the 2 other board meetings that we're expecting.
Oh,
to
that
see this
readings,
on.
yeah, we
Yes,
can add
please.
that. Yeah.
So we should have a UDC updated timeline, version 1.6, and I will get with the city administrator to determine if she wants to move that out a little bit further to allow the public some additional time.
Can I have an additional question on
You
it?
sure can.
So when the final one is finished, how long will the public get to look at it?
The planning commission sets the date after the planning commission makes their adjustments, the planning commission sets the date that it goes forward to the board. It's usually the next meeting.
Yeah,
They have to forward that to the board for consideration.
So following regular procedure, if it goes to planning commission in August, it won't be till the September meeting that it goes to the board. So the public will essentially have a whole month to really look at it
Great.
before it goes to the board of directors.
Is there any way that, since the document's so long, that if between the almost final version and the final, that like the 4.0, that you could put just what was changed so that it's easier to find out? You know, instead of, when you go through 100 and something pages and you don't know what's changed to the next version, it'd be nice to just kind of have a summary of what we
We've been
changed.
doing that. So the redaction is color coded.
Okay.
And so the newer versions will highlight only in a specific color based off of the change. So if you look at the redaction, those are not always staying the same. We add those by version.
Is there a
Great.
key? Is there a key on that?
Yeah,
then?
on the first page.
So on
Yeah.
the first page, if you look at the key, the color-coded key will show you what has changed since the previous version.
So that will be ready before it gets voted on, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
available throughout the entire process.
Thank you, Ben.
yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. All right, do I have any additional comments? Okay. I currently have 6:12, and we're going to just move forward. What are the next steps? So the next steps, Ben, did you want to speak on that?
I can, as Chris has stated, and we've kind of covered just in some of the questions. You know, we are going to be meeting with the stakeholders. We had a great meeting today already with 2 of them. Got very good feedback, and we're continuing to be getting feedback to make changes for version 3.3. I believe in the board workshop, which I think he says July 17th. If that's correct, is the next
Joint board workshop. is
joint
July.
workshop is really the next sort of public meeting, if you will. It's going to be on Thursday night. And I think the intent of that one is not really going to be going over the basics every time, but really getting more into this is what we heard and this is what we're changing, and kind of being more specific to exact sections of the codes and not just the broad brush overview of the entire thing. And then after that, we will get any final changes done before the cutoff, hopefully by the end of July, and then get it to Planning Commission in August. And then that will go like a regular ordinance, you know, to the board in September, and 3 readings. So, but what Chris stated is correct. If the city administrator doesn't want to add more time, more likely it'll just be pushed back a month, I would think. So we probably put it to September Planning Commission, but it just depends on what we decide internally. Something.
And again, that'll all be a part of the UDC updated timeline version 1.6. That should be able to, we should be able to get that out by probably Friday. We'll make a determination if any of these dates change, because I think the city administrator is probably going to want to get a feel from some of our board members to determine, because you know, this process, when we look at this is a process that started in 2022 on our timeline. And this is October 7th, 2025. We did start the first, some of the first public input was February 27th, 2025. But, we definitely wanted to, throughout this process, we wanted to make sure that the public was involved as much as possible. And, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for a while, and there's not a lot of items that go through in this city or any other city that have this amount of public input. And that's not because we were pressured to do it. That's because we wanted to do it. This is your code. This is not our code. This is the city's code. And we wanted to make sure that throughout the process, we took all the considerations. We don't always agree with the considerations, and we can't always do everything that people ask because sometimes there's case laws that have to be considered. There's different considerations that we have to look at beyond the scope of our possibilities. But that doesn't mean we did not listen. If there is something that you had looked at that you wanted to be in this and it doesn't make it, it's not from our lack of trying and looking at it. I assure you that we went through every single comment that this staff has received, and we addressed each one of them to the best of our abilities. And I assure you that we're still going to go through a board in the next couple of weeks that it has every intention to make sure that this is the best update that we can possibly achieve. I want to thank my staff because they've just done a phenomenal job through this process, and I appreciate them. This is the last true public town hall meeting that we're going to be in control over. We're going to hand this over to the Planning Commission and the board soon, but I appreciate my staff's work on this. We've put a tremendous amount of time and effort in this, hundreds and hundreds of hours of staff time. And is it perfect? No. If you're looking for perfect, you will not find it anywhere. This is a great job. That's what we're looking for. This is something that my staff will be proud of, and I appreciate them. And if there's nothing else, I will adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.